Hello, MangaMatt here. Wait a minute. Oh yeah, it's October. You know what that means. Walking Dead's back on TV. Ah, and also that means get to put on. Let me see, quick change. Dead girls don't say no. Oh yeah. I only get to wear this around this time of year because I get at least less odd looks at me. Oh yeah. And by the way, side note, this thing is hella cheap on Amazon. You can usually get this thing for about $30, and this is 48 of the issues of The Walking Dead, a great introductory into the series. Highly recommend getting it. Alright, but enough of that and the show. Here today is my top 10 list of the top 10 best horror manga picked by me. Of course, not everything can make the list, and to be honest, it's hard to pick out just straight up horror titles from manga itself. There are a lot of close runner-ups to the series just because of their content, but they just couldn't make the list, but I can at least include them as honorable mentions. First up, Ceres the Celestial Legend. It's about a girl, Ceres, and she, Aya, her name is Aya, and it turns out that they go to a family reunion and they find out that she is actually a reincarnation of an angel that her family imprisoned hundreds and hundreds of years ago, and they've been trying ever since to try and control or just remove this vengeful spirit from their family lineage. And of course this leads into her having a dual personality, the other one being that of the angel Ceres, who will kind of go carry on everyone and just unleash her psychic fury, and she'll just tear people apart. Now, this definitely has horror elements in it and a cool romance, but the main weakness of the series is just the fact that the horror doesn't keep up. Now, it's great on its own, just not really horror, and that's what a lot of these honorable mentions are. Also, Battle Royale. Yes, there are some gruesome bits in there with people getting mutilated, people getting blown away by gunfire, people just being complete psychopaths and just mentally breaking down. But the problem with it is it's just too few and far between, and you know pretty early on who's gonna stick around and who's gonna die. And well, once you figure that out, then it kind of loses all its steam right there. Great action though, great action, great characters, but just not horror. Berserk also, definitely horrific, but at the same time, there's a whole chunk, those first 10 volumes, well, the 10 after the first 2 volumes, so volume 3 through about 12, where there's not really as much horror in it, and even right now, it's kind of not any horror. There's just sort of gruesome monsters and crazy bits in there, so it kind of isn't really there. Also, it's kind of more gothic and less horror, so it's kind of not like that. And then also Parasite, you know, it's great. It's got a lot of horrific bits in there, a lot of creepy stuff going on with aliens, and you know, they're whipping around and tearing people apart, and lots of that action. But again, it doesn't hold up as a solid horror title. You know, it's got just a little bit too much of this other stuff going in there to really keep on its own. Now, this last one here, the last one, promise, Domu, A Child's Dream, written by Katsuhiro Otomo himself. This was originally on the list, but the problem with it is that after I read it, it really wasn't horror at all. It was thriller. The whole premise of it is just there's a string of crazy murders happening around, and the reader finds out that it's all being committed by this crazy old man that just sort of is senile, and he's basically just using his psychic powers to kill the other tenants in the buildings and to just take their stuff and just collect it. And then you find out also that there's another little girl that lives in the buildings with him, and basically the two of them duke it out in sort of this big psychic battle that takes place in the entire building, and it basically sends it to rubble. But again, it's not really horror, it's just thriller, because you're kind of not sure what's going on initially, and then you kind of figure it out later. It's kind of like Silence of the Lambs. A lot of people would say Silence of the Lambs is horror, but it's really more thriller. And of course that's entirely your opinion, how you feel, and well, for me, I don't feel like this is really horror. It feels like thriller. So, with that part out of the way, let's get down to the main list now. Top 10 best horror manga titles that I've read. Also, I have not read Higurashi When They Cry, and I know that it's probably really good just from the clips I've seen, and I've actually ordered the first 5 volumes of it off of eBay. So, I mean, if I haven't read it, I can't say it, but we'll say that's another one that would be included probably. But number 10, Pet Shop of Horrors. Now, initially this series starts really fantastic. You just got this crazy man, Count D, who's obsessed with sweets, and he works in Chinatown in America as a pet shop owner. And eccentric people will come in every now and again, and they'll want some kind of pet that they want to take care of to sort of appease their interests, and then it turns out that the animal actually is crazy evil. As you see right here, she actually bought this bird human that, as it turns out, eats the female. The female of the species eats the male, and upon doing that, it gives it nourishment for it to have a kid, nourish its young, and it also usually ties into like whatever else is going on with them. And also there's other horrific tales in here too, where a little girl buys a bunny rabbit, and the bunny rabbits just run around and basically maul everyone in an entire neighborhood. The only problem with this series, of course, is after about volume 3, it becomes less episodic, like a Twilight Zone series, and it starts getting this main plot with Count D kind of teaming up with a local detective, Orcott, and of course Orcott was kind of suspicious of Count D from the beginning, thinking that he might be responsible for the string of deaths where the tying thread is all of them purchased an animal from Count D's pet shop, and from there it gets kind of blasé. Just more plot lines involving Count D and Orcott teaming up, because Count D is all flamboyant and frilly, and Detective Orcott is all rugged and manly, so they kind of clash in their personal interests. But it is still a solid series in and of itself, and it does still keep kind of the gore element with it. The only reason why it's probably so low is because it had such a strong beginning, and then it kind of lost itself, and also because it's out of print and kind of hard to find, so that kind of loses points for me, is above all else accessibility. If you can't find it, you can't appreciate it, which of course when I get to my number 1, it's going to be a complete dick move from everyone, so I'm just warning you about that I'm aware of my own hypocrisy in that regard. But I'll finish up the rest of these in later parts.